So today, what I wanted to talk about is how sometimes what we think is an obstacle is actually a pathway for our teaching. So sometimes what we think of as obstacles or challenges, what causes us to doubt ourselves as yoga teachers or doubt that we could even become a yoga teacher are actually pathways or opportunities to provide something new or to specialize or to reach a particular group of students where they're at or just share our wonderful unique selves. So sometimes the things that we think we need to overcome to even become a yoga teacher, the thing maybe we feel an urge to fix or to hide, or I need to sort this out before I begin teaching, is actually something that we could highlight or that we could lean into. So I'll share a few examples of what I mean by this. If you've had concerns about being a yoga teacher of a certain age, which might be older or younger, maybe that's something that you could lean into. Age brings experience and a certain wisdom, and sometimes students will seek that out and really benefit from it. But also youth brings a particular kind of magic. I love working with younger teachers who are full of energy and curiosity and enthusiasm and are perhaps less conservative or more willing to challenge our ideas as students of what we're capable of. If you've been concerned about being a brand new yoga teacher, that newness, that kind of beginner's mind could be an asset. If you've just trained, you're likely up on the latest in yoga and movement science and teaching methodology and all the current conversations in yoga. So you could lean into your newness and speak to how you're bringing fresh ideas and a fresh voice. If you don't practice fancy poses, or if you're differently abled, or you have injuries, or you're restricted in your movement, that's also something that you could lean into rather than like apologizing for not being able to do every iteration of a pose. You could really lean into accessibility and adapting each pose for each unique body, showing the world that yoga's for everyone. Um, I want to speak to language. If English or whatever the primary language is in the country that you teach in, if that isn't your first language, this can also be a benefit. You might worry about having an accent, but your accent might be the thing that keeps students paying attention. It might be something they love about your classes and that highlights you as a teacher. And you also might use that opportunity to teach bilingual classes, which meets more people where they're at. And it also teaches your students a new language and allows other ESL students, for instance, to have more practice and more exposure to English. So that's something to think about. If you have practiced yoga in a bigger body and know how modern postural yoga often doesn't give physical or cultural space for folks in bigger bodies, you might want to make that your specialty. On a business management front, maybe you don't have a regular schedule due to shift work or you're regularly traveling. You could lean into that and teach pop-up yoga or sub for other teachers, become a subbing specialist, or maybe teach in shorter, more intensive blocks. You might teach online. You might teach specifically to shift workers or FIFO workers. You might teach more in the workshop style, like yoga labs, or maybe half-day retreats or full-day yoga retreats instead of weekly classes if those aren't available for you to do that. For me, living with chronic pain and practicing in an aging body, I've sort of faced this dilemma, and it's led me to teach much more towards an accessible space. And I have to admit, it used to be something that I ignored and kind of bulldozed through for many years, but these days it's something that I've learned to lean into, and it's made my teaching more accessible, and it's made teaching much safer and more comfortable for me. Um, and it's really helped to empower me on the mat, both in my teaching and in my own practice. And one of the ways it's done that is I no longer feel the obligation to demonstrate every pose or every version of the pose. I've developed skills to teach with a lot less demonstrating, which allows me to have more safety and longevity in my teaching practice. And I kind of feel like it's taken the performative aspect out of my teaching that I had grown kind of uncomfortable with over recent years. So what I'm saying is, what you see as a flaw could be just what people love about you, or what brings them to your classes, or what improves your classes, or what you could build your teaching practice on. I've seen teachers who are hypomobile, so in really tight bodies, and that's what they specialize in. They teach yoga for people in tighter bodies, and their classes are a great experience for those who might go to the average yoga studio and feel out of place, or feel like they're not doing yoga right, or not have access to the tools or the versions of poses that could really help them drop into practice. Okay, having said all of that, I also want to say that some specialty areas might require specialty training, or at least a good bit of research. So having an experience yourself isn't enough to teach to others. So I'm thinking specifically of specialties like prenatal or postnatal yoga. Having practiced prenatal yoga isn't enough to teach it. There are specialty trainings you'll need to reach into that population. Or yoga for menopause, or yoga for arthritis, or yoga for frontline workers. Doing some training and research is going to help you reach those populations, even if you've already had that experience yourself. Or when it comes to yoga for any kind of sports performance, yoga for runners, yoga for like performing artists, or any other specialty population, having had a depth of experience in that activity is really useful, but also doing some research on that specialty is important.
Right.
Having said that, not having had an experience doesn't preclude you from teaching to a special population. So you might not yet be elderly, but you wish to teach to older adults. And again, doing some research and specialty training is going to help you specialize in that area if that's an area of particular interest for you. So I've said a lot. Now I'd like to hear from you, and maybe what this discussion or these ideas has sparked for you. Have there been areas you thought were obstacles, but maybe now you can see our pathways? Or have you had this experience in your own journey from yoga student to yoga teacher? We'd love to hear your insights and your wisdom, so I'll hand it over to you.